You're listening to English with Monty, the podcast about the English language, talking about 10 British dialects you need to know and are commonly heard. Hello there and welcome to English with Monty. We're on to episode number 41. I've got Gideon with me today because he is an expert on this subject. We're going to be talking about different dialect, 10 different British dialects you need to know. Hi Gideon, how are you doing?
I'm fine. I'm an expert on the subject. I think you sort of built up the expectations of the listener now. I hope they won't be deflated.
They're either consistently deflated by your previous performances or they think you are a genuine expert. We'll see. I think you're an expert.
I am an expert, but I don't know on what.
I'm drinking coffee, maybe.
Yeah, I'm an expert on sitting on a sofa, drinking coffee, staring into space. That kind of thing. I'm world-class expertise.
It's true. I've noticed you are very good at that. My first question is dialect. We're taking this from EF. So this is an EF thing. So they've talked about 10 different British dialects you need to know. What about dialect? What does dialect mean?
Are we talking here about the difference between a dialect and an accent?
Sorry, I probably should have said that. Yeah.
I think that an accent, just a few sound changes, but can be easily understood by a person who has a different accent in the same language. Whereas a dialect implies that there may be some more significant changes or maybe a bit of grammar differences, quite a lot of vocabulary differences. I don't know. It's difficult. There's a grey area. What is an accent? What is pronunciation? What is a different language as well? Sometimes Swiss German is not a dialect of German. It's a different language. So I don't know. I don't speak German. But these things you hear as well. Also Scots. Maybe I should talk about English because there's in Scotland, I know something about this. I did a video on the Scottish accent. In Scotland, you have Scottish English, which you'd say is an accent. It's Scottish people speaking English in a Scottish way. And you have Scots, which is a different thing. It's considered a different language, and most people consider it a different language. But some people say, no, it's not a language, it's just a dialect.
Well, so maybe we'll start off with Scottish then. Just to quickly add in, the Cambridge Dictionary says a dialect is a form of the language that is spoken in a particular part of the country or by a particular group of people.
That's exactly what I said, just with different words and less dictionary-y. In a more man of the people kind of way. I said a similar thing.
It's true. But I thought that was an interesting, just to get that definition on there.
Maybe you should have started with the dictionary definition.
Probably. I wanted to start with you. Because everybody wants you. That's the reason why. So Scottish, let's do a bit of a clip first of all.
I speak as a real Polish here. Can I give you a wee pointer?
So obviously Scotland is in the north of the United Kingdom. Supposedly the Scottish accent, as we know it now, developed as late as the 1700s, apparently, but it existed in different forms before that.
Well, I do know something about the Scottish accent, even though I can't actually reproduce it myself, because I did a video on my YouTube channel. Check it out, on the Scottish accent. And my guest, Jack, is Scottish, and he explained the different accents and the histories and things like that. It's very interesting, but very complicated. Difficult to sum up in a few words. Maybe other accents in the UK, you can just say, well, it's like this. But Scottish, there are many different. As I said already, there's Scottish English. That's English, even though sometimes it's really difficult to understand, from Glaswegian accent or some other accents you'll find in the cities in Scotland, Edinburgh. They're very, very strong and difficult to understand, but they are dialects. So that's still Scottish English. However, there's another language called Scots, and there are even dialects of Scots in Northern Ireland. There's one called Doric, I think, the Highlands, and you have in the Shetland Islands.
I briefly touch upon this with my friend Brody as an earlier episode, which is the Scottish and Australian accents, because he has two of those connections. We touched on Doric and Scots.
Right. It says in the little article you sent me that there are influences from Gaelic. I'm told it's Scottish Gaelic, not Gaelic. Gaelic's in Ireland.
Gaelic, okay.
So, yeah. So there are some words that they use connected to Gaelic that we don't use.
And I guess as a tourist going to somewhere like Edinburgh or Glasgow, you're definitely going to hear a Scottish accent, aren't you? It's
Most
obviously
definitely.
common. It's widespread, isn't it?
It's difficult to talk about one Scottish accent. There are so many. It was a country. It still is a country, part of the United Kingdom. So there are so many accents. You'll hear them say I instead of yes, maybe.
That's true. That's kind of similarities, isn't it, to Northern English dialects as well,
That's
accents. True. Yorkshire, you'd say that. Geordie, Newcastle.
That's true.
There is commonality there, isn't there, between Northern English accents and Scottish.
You hear a loch, which is an English word, but it's the only English word which has a ch sound in it. When you're learning a language like Spanish and they want to explain the ch, jota, they say, well, it's just like the Scottish word loch. Oh, okay. You can say that, then you can learn Spanish.
all of Spanish, just by a small sound. That's good to know.
Because it's one sound that we don't have, except in that word. We don't have any other words with a ch sound, do we, in English?
I don't think so. That is a curious one. I guess there's influence from Norse languages as there from the Vikings.
Yes, there are. I think in Scots particularly, but also Scottish English, word bairn or something like that, like a child, isn't it? That's from Scandinavian languages, and there are lots more other examples. Use sort of Scandinavian words that we don't use. Can't think of any.
I can't think of anything off the top of my head at the moment. There are a few, aren't there? Definitely.
I think you could do a podcast just on Scottish, but perhaps you should get a Scottish person in if you could do that. Yeah. But yes, because there's so much. And we're not really doing it justice here. But do watch my video.
Definitely watch your video. It's very popular as well, isn't it?
Yeah.
Let Them Talk TV. You know, your latest video about the Rock Tour. Amazing.
Definitely watch that one. That's so great. You're in it, John.
Well, that's why it's so great, isn't it?
Yes, partly the reason.
Okay, let's move on quickly, maybe, because we've got to get through 10. So Geordie. Geordie is from Newcastle, isn't it? And arguably one of the most distinctive, strongest accents in England, isn't it, really?
Notice I'm not trying to put on a Scottish accent or a Geordie accent. Play your clip, John. Let the listeners hear what Geordie sounds like.
Yeah, sure. Here's the clip.
I really want to go to the World Cup, and
look, we've been through this, haven't we? It's too expensive to fly. You can't drive. The only way to get there is if, I don't know, we cleverly swap ourselves with Sven-Goran Eriksson and his assistant Tord Grip.
Geordie changes all the rules of standard English, apparently, so nothing is pronounced as you would expect it to be. I guess you can hear that a bit in the clip, can't we? So you can use the oo sound instead of the u and the rolled t.
Instead of saying no, they say like no. Yeah, they o is it or. I'm going to go. I'm not doing it justice. An apology to any Geordies out there.
The clip gives the best idea, doesn't it? But yeah, I think what you said, no. I always used to watch Biker Grove. I don't know if you ever watched Biker Grove. That was based in Newcastle. It was kind of a kids' TV program, and it was where Anton Dett came from.
That's in the northeast, Newcastle.
It is,
I noticed if you go down to Middlesbrough, places like that, it's got slightly softer Geordie accent, if that's the right word, but you can recognise that part of the world.
There are similarities, definitely, aren't there?
Yeah, Teesside. Tyneside. Yeah, this is a Tyneside accent, Geordie, isn't it? Newcastle, Sunderland. You go down to Teesside, you can hear some differences, has some similarities.
I guess a lot of accents mix together to some extent, don't they? And they become stronger or softer, don't they? Potentially. Yeah. Geordie would be the strongest form of that kind of accent. I suppose in Middlesbrough, you could argue it's a bit softer, right?
Yeah.
Next one, I think, is quite a significant one, Scouse.
Scouse accent.
Wow, that's not bad. Let's play the clip as well and see if yours compares to the clip.
You know me saying, lad, I'm a Scouser. We don't get knocked out.
So where is Scouse from?
Liverpool. Again, I didn't attempt Geordie or Scottish, but Scouse. Some of the words are good to try out, should we say. Yeah, Scouse accent. And not very popular, I should say. I think I did another video on, there was a survey of the favourite accents in Britain. I was very surprised to find that the Scouse was the least popular accent in Britain, which is ridiculous. It's a great accent. It's the accent of the Beatles. It's wonderful.
I suppose it's the strong element of it, isn't it? If it's very strong, maybe that's why people find it a bit of a challenge.
It's challenging, yeah.
because it can be difficult to understand. But certainly the Beatles, they all had Scouse accents, didn't they? And
Yeah.
I guess it was quite soft, wasn't it? And maybe over time they became a bit softer and less noticeable.
Perhaps still recognisably Liverpool, though, they always spoke. You could tell straight away.
Yeah, very much so. And they
Yeah.
kind of roll their R's, don't they?
Yeah.
That's quite interesting because a lot of English speakers, English native speakers cannot roll their R's. For example, if you're learning something like Italian, you have to roll your R's.
Yeah.
That can be a bit of a challenge. But I guess if you're a Scouser and you're learning Italian, it makes it easier for you. I did make a friend actually in Bologna called Andrea. So a big shout out for Andrea. He's been promoting my podcast and also the video, the rock video. So he's a good lad. But he used to live and work in Liverpool at a youth hostel. And he actually does a very good Scouse accent.
Oh, yeah?
Being an Italian, yeah, I think it's very impressive. His Scouse accent is better than mine.
Really?
So,
Wow.
yeah.
Because they have their own vocabulary. That's how you define a dialect as well, that has a different vocabulary. I think Scouse has a lot of words we don't use, like soft for stupid. Are you soft? Soft? What do you mean soft? You're soft. I don't understand. No, I'm very hard. Oh, it means stupid. Okay. Oh, thank you.
Does it mean stupid? I thought it meant to be weak in some way, no?
No, I think in Liverpool it's stupid. I think you better check. I might use it like that. A bit soft, a bit weak.
Soft in the head, isn't it? Maybe. Is that right?
Yeah. Let's say something like, I know, go ahead instead of go on, something like that. Lots of very colourful language up there.
They do, don't they? Also here, I don't really understand why they've done this, but they said you can visit to learn Scouse to include Liverpool and nearby Manchester. Manchester is very different.
What?
Well, exactly.
Where did you get this article from, John?
I don't know. I get them from all over.
Places you can visit to learn Scouse include Liverpool and nearby Manchester. Who wrote that article? No.
It seems bizarre, doesn't it? I mean,
written by someone in New Zealand from picking things off the internet.
Quite possibly.
No one with knowledge. I'm not a northerner, but even I know. No, Manchester's a different accent.
Yeah, well,
Mancunian.
Mancunian. In a way, I'm surprised that's not considered a separate accent on here because it's pretty distinctive, isn't it? I would say Mancunian accent is obviously thinking about the guys that you love so much, Oasis, the way they speak, Liam and Noel Gallagher. You know, that's very much a Mancunian accent, isn't it? I would not consider that close. I mean, there's some similarities to Scouse, but it's not very similar, is it? I would argue.
Yeah, different accent. It's interesting, though, in Britain, I can't speak for many other countries. Every city has its own accent, really, or you can go, because the difference between Liverpool and Manchester, it's like 35 miles. What's that, 50 kilometers? I'm not sure. And completely different accents. In spite of what it says on the webpage you sent me, the article you sent me, you go 35 miles and you get a completely different accent.
Yeah, it is very different, isn't it?
And then you go another 35 miles east to Leeds. I know something about that. I went to university in Leeds. It's different again.
Maybe I'll just do a quick clip of a Manchester accent just to see the difference, because that's not included.
Hello, Alex. This is Ian. Glad you're feeling better, darling.
And then you speaking about Leeds, that's Yorkshire, isn't it? Yorkshire really is a distinctive accent, isn't it? It says here the biggest pronunciation difference is in the letter U, which is often spoken ooh rather than ooh.
Sorry, John, what was that? Oh, Yorkshire.
Yorkshire. I can actually do a relatively good Yorkshire accent. I apologise for people if they don't think it's that good. My mum's from Yorkshire, so hopefully it's not too bad. Jeffrey Boycott. My name's Jeffrey Boycott. I'm the best cricket player in the world.
It's good. It sounded like a little bit between Manchester and Yorkshire to me.
Yeah, you're probably right. You're probably right.
Or criticise. Maybe your mum mistaught you. No, it's pretty good, though. It's pretty good. It's better than I can do. Well, the only thing is I can do is because I did live in Leeds for, I don't know how many years. They don't say the, or you can't hear it. Where are you going, Jim? Going to pub.
That's good. Going to pub.
You mean the pub? Shouldn't you be using the different articles before pub? Because it's countable. 1 pub, 2 pub, 3 pub. Ow! Why did you punch me in the face?
Did that frequently happen when you were in Leeds?
Exactly. But you know what I mean.
So you had to be really careful with your words because you'd be considered a southern fairy up there, I guess.
Yeah, something like that, yes. They heard your accent, my southern accent, and questioned your masculinity, but whatever it was. But no, that was very nice. I love Leeds. I should say that. I went to a few tough working class pubs sometimes, because, with middle-class students from the South, let's discover the real Leeds. Let's go to one of these working class places where working class people go. Then you walk in and the piano stops like at Western movies, and they'll stare around like looking, we know, university scarves. Goes, I think I have half a shandy, my good man.
Is this how you used to speak? You've changed your voice.
We don't like your folks round here, like folks like you around here. What you come over here with your London ways. Get out of the pub.
We're going to get loads of comments on this. Potentially, yeah.
I'm sorry. Oh, that punch in the face really hurt.
Well, at least they didn't glass you or anything like that.
Why'd you say that, John? You don't know.
Well, maybe they did. They scarred you for life.
You're looking at my girlfriend. No, honestly, no. I was just glancing around at the colourful background.
Scenery, yes. The colourful paintings on the wall.
I'm exaggerating. I love Leeds, Yorkshire people. Don't want to get any...
That is the reason why. That is the reason why you've changed your accent, isn't it? Because
I don't know.
Maybe. Much posher before.
Yeah, I was putting on a bit more posh.
I think this is super controversial. I can't believe they can get away with some of the stuff they write on this. But it says, personally, I've never met a trustworthy Yorkshire person.
What?
Just kidding.
Just kidding. They're
lovely. Oh my God, that's crazy. What is this person talking about?
Don't know.
I would suggest that they're very trustworthy, lovely people. I take personal offense at that. At Monty, we offer English classes online, so you can join wherever you are. We offer individual lessons or English exam preparation. For first-timers in a group class, it's only £2. Visit our website at montyenglish.co.uk to buy this ticket or book any other package now. So we'll move on to Welsh. Welsh is a language, isn't it? It's not just an accent.
Well, it's two different things. Like in Scotland, you'll have 3 languages in Scotland, 2 in Wales. Yeah, you have Welsh, the Welsh language, and then you'll have the Welsh accent, which is English. And yeah, it's nice. What I like about it is that it's sort of like leave the gaps in the middle of words. That's how you notice the Welsh person. He goes, where are you going? I'm going to Wales. So I exaggerate. But you know what I mean? Wales.
Yeah, it's a good point.
I'm going to open my umbrella. I did terribly. Terribly. John, you should delete that one. I can't do the Welsh accent. Delete that one. That's terrible.
Here's a clip of a Welsh accent.
Answer your phone, it's lonely.
Much better than mine. I take no pride.
Definitely better than yours. In fact, the other year, I mean, this is one of the things that's quite interesting about Welsh is that sometimes this is the Welsh actual language, isn't it? Rather than kind of English spoken with the Welsh accent. But there's a town just on Anglesey with the largest name. Apparently, it's the second longest place name in the world.
John, I should tell you something, though, which maybe you won't like and maybe the listeners won't like, but it's fake.
What?
Because it was invented. The story is, it's quite an interesting story, though. They wanted to get tourists in the 19th century. I think it's the 19th century. They put a railway station in this area and they wanted to get tourists to come to the area, something noteworthy. So they sort of invented the name.
Oh, wow.
So it hasn't been going back for like hundreds of years. No, well, it has been going back for 100 or 150 or whatever. Juanfer Pilgrim, Juan Casilio, go, or something like that.
That's not too bad. I'm quite impressed with that.
It's the second longest place name in the world, but it's fake. It's invented.
You've destroyed my fantasy world.
Marketing. So marketing is not a new thing. So you market a place. The railways were expanding in the 19th century and they wanted some fame, some notoriety. So they made up this name.
Very beautiful area there, Anglesey and Snowdonia, very beautiful countryside. If people like hiking, it's definitely a good place to go, isn't it? Honestly, I think I'm never going to use articles from this website again. It says, you'll learn the Welsh dialect if you visit Cardiff or nearby cities like Bristol.
I don't know who wrote this article, but they're going to get some angry messages.
They are. Bristol.
I think they've never really been to the UK in their life.
I would agree with that.
That's risking it from, research on the web. And just make things up looking at a map.
Yeah, I would also say Bristol is very distinctive, isn't it?
Yeah, sure, of course.
I would say that this one should have been included, really. I'll do a quick Bristol one. I be from Bristol. I be from Bristol. I can know.
No, it's good. I'm not sure about the R. I think that's
R.
a bit of a cliche. But that's quite good. It's better than I can do.
Yeah,
But you're right. They roll the R's. They have rhotic. I should say roll R. Apparently, that's not the right term, but I keep saying it. It's rhotic. They pronounce the R's in the Bristol.
Bristol, Conway Narvister, or Tratter. It's kind of Somerset, Bristol.
I think you're coming later on. I'm just looking at this article you're in. There is West Country.
Oh, yes. That covers all of that, doesn't it?
You'll hear it in major cities like Bristol and Bournemouth. Once again, I'm not sure in Bournemouth they speak like that.
I'm not convinced. Definitely Somerset, Gloucestershire, I would say.
Yeah.
I mean, I guess in Cornwall, they briefly touch upon Cornwall, but Cornwall has their own kind of accent as well, don't they? Sorry, language, I think. Cornish as a language. I think it's not spoken by many people.
John, it died out in the 18th century.
I'm not sure that's true, is it?
No, but they're trying to revive it. They're trying to revive it. So there are a few people who are learning it now, but it wasn't spoken between 1706. I think the last speaker died, which is a long time ago, and 21st century, basically. They're trying to revive it. But I'm not sure there are any native speakers. There's some people learn it as a second language. I don't think there are any native speakers of Cornish. There's no communities where they speak Cornish, unlike Wales or Scottish Gaelic.
Supposedly, there are around about 300 native speakers or fluent speakers.
So you just contradicted me.
Well, I was just looking it up. I was interested.
Where? We're 300 native speakers. Where?
I don't know.
Which town? Is this Wikipedia? You just Googled it and looked up on Wikipedia, did you? You did, didn't you?
There is one on the BBC Culture website, which is surely more reliable. It says less than 1,000 people speak Cornish.
I would put it to them that that's their second language because there's no community that speak Cornish.
Okay.
There's no district where they speak Cornish.
But
language.
I guess the influence would come from, apparently it's closely related to Breton, so from the northwest of France.
But do you know why?
Well, no, I don't know. Is it about migration?
Because Welsh, Breton, and Cornish, they're called Brittonic languages, aren't they? The Celtic language is divided into Geordie, pronounce it correctly, and Brittonic. And the Brittonic languages are Welsh, Cornish, and Breton, very similar languages. But why are they in France? Because they were refugees from Britain, from Cornwall, and from Wales. I think there was conflict between the Anglo-Saxons, perhaps, or other groups, and they left Britain to escape the conflict and moved to Brittany. So that's why they're there in the first place. They actually originate from Britain, Great Britain. By the way, that's the difference between Brittany. That's why it's called Great Britain. Do you know that? Because it's to distinguish it, because in French, it's the same word. Bretagne, the same word. In order to distinguish in English between Brittany and Britain, they call it Great Britain, because great meaning of big. It's not fantastic. It doesn't mean that's not what Great Britain means.
Yeah, that's curious, isn't it? Because I remember I had a Swiss student once, a long time ago now, but he was a young guy. And he actually said this to me. He said, "Why are you Great Britain? Do you think you're great?"
You hear that quite a lot. Assume it's something to do with the empire or just say, we're great. No, great had the meaning of big.
Yes, it was from
all.
From the Bretons, wasn't it? It was from the northwest of France. It was them that called us that.
Yeah.
Because it's a bigger area of land. We've missed out Brummie.
Oh, right. Yeah, we should know something about that. Well, you particularly are the expert. We did a video together, didn't we?
We did, yeah. But people kept on saying I was a bit like a Black Country person. So I don't know.
It's just that video got a lot of love, but it got some anger as well because
it did.
For me, the Brummie accent and the West Midlands accent, West Midlands are the towns around Birmingham, they sound quite similar to me, but apparently if you're from there, no, definitely they don't.
Maybe I exaggerate it a little bit too much. Maybe that's the reason why.
You exaggerate?
Never.
Never in a million years would I exaggerate.
No, exactly. So my Brummie accent, I'm going to do it. All right, mate, I'm from Birmingham. I like Black Sabbath. And I also like going to the boarding every day.
That's very good. Sounds good to me. People said it's too strong, your version. To be fair, you are from around there. You may not, you're from, what's that place called? What's the town you went to school in? Solihull, which is in Birmingham.
You're going to get some complaints again.
We got complaints. On the video we did in the comment section. Solihull is not Birmingham. What are you talking about? It's only was put it there for reasons of administration, but it's a completely different place.
People in Solihull would dispute that they sound like that as well. It's kind of a little bit softer, I guess, in Solihull. It's quite interesting because I think there's quite a bit of snobbery going on in Solihull.
Because it's a posh part, isn't it? Very posh.
Exactly, yeah. So that's why they
I'm
don't
doing
sound
my
like
Birmingham
that.
accent, which is, it's bad. I think it's a little bit less bad than my other accent because I did in Birmingham for a while. And I think it's easier to mimic than the Yorkshire accent, which when I lived there, I was struggling with that one.
Yeah, well, let's do this clip from Peaky Blinders. I think that's a good clip to do because it's quite a soft one, isn't it?
It's not a good idea to look at Tommy Shelby the wrong way.
They roll their R's as well, don't they? So that's another R.
Oh, okay.
rolling
And I must just vote for Brummie. It's one of my favourite accents. I think it's a really musical accent. It's not very popular. Again, on this list of least popular accents, I think it was Scouse and Brummie were amongst the least popular. I really like it. I really like it. It's very, very musical accent. If you hear it, it's like it's like a song every time they speak.
Outside of Birmingham, it's really not very well received, is it, as an accent? People would consider people from Birmingham to sound quite stupid.
I think it's changing. People just don't know what they've got until it's gone. It's nice. I like it. Be proud. Be Brummie. Be proud.
It is a curious one, though, isn't it? I mean, I would say that if you are working in London, I would argue it could disadvantage you, though, unconsciously, I think.
Maybe Peaky Blinder, this is serious. Maybe that's helped a bit because I think even though it's the second city, UK, not many people knew the Brummie accent, unless you're a fan of heavy metal groups from the 1970s or Duran Duran. Not many people knew the accent, but now that's given it sort of more widespread appeal.
Sure. I think that does make a difference, doesn't it? The next one they're talking about is RP.
Shall I do my best RP accent now?
I think you've already done it, haven't you?
Yes, I should be able to do an RP accent. That's what I tell on my videos. I said, hello, my name's Gideon, and I have an RP accident. I have an RP accent, and I get all these comments. What are you talking about? You know, an RP accent, you bloody Londoner, get out of here. I have a lovely RP accent. Because I also, another video I made, I hate the term RP itself because people don't know what it is. For some people, RP, you can check this in even Wikipedia. For some people, RP is the middle class accent. The one I'm speaking now. I'm not putting on the accent now. I'm just speaking in a normal middle class accent from the south of England. Okay. But for other people, they say it's the Queen's English, whatever the King's English now. Sorry, she passed away. If you haven't heard the news, she had a completely different accent. The accent that Boris Johnson spoke or David Cameron, they say that's RP. No, it's not. That's a completely different accent, isn't it? So you can't say it's both. It has one or the other. So I call it, a lot of people call the middle class accent, which is the one we use in the dictionaries, the one that is learned from the English textbooks, where you have the phonetic script. The one they use is actually one called SSBE, Standard Southern British English. And it's not saying it's the better accent or anything. It's just that's the one they use. They do not use, when you look at the phonetic scripts of a word that you don't know on the internet and you check the sound of it, it's not the Queen's English they use. It's the middle class accent, the SSPE. They don't say often, they say often, for example. Or some people say often, but I say often. You agree?
Yeah, I do agree. Yeah, I mean, I think your accent is quite close to RP, and I would argue mine is as well. Well, I don't know if you agree with that.
Certainly. I know you do have, well, both of us, I mean, you have a few regional things. You say like Bath, you have that thing that's more northern. And I have a few regional tweaks. Tweaks are the right word? To my accent, a bit of London. I say with instead of with, but we're not that far away.
That's probably the biggest difference, isn't it? Like Bath and Bath. Arguably, I guess that changes. I don't know, it's probably round about Northampton, is it? Where, you know, Northampton upwards, they would say Bath, and then further south of Northampton, people would say Bath. So it's kind of a long vowel sound, isn't it?
Once again, by the way, this article you sent is wrong. It's closest to what people call the Queen's English. No, it isn't. Also known as Standard English. Did the Queen speak Standard English? No. Well, not now, but no, anytime. No, she didn't speak Standard English. She had her own posh accent.
It's curious, isn't
There's some people call it conservative RP, but I don't know. It's just posh accent.
Posh accent.
I'm not mean that in a bad way. It's not the accent of the dictionaries, the one that we use.
It's an important distinction, isn't it? I think we've got two left. One of them is yours. So we've got Cockney.
Cockney. What
Cockney.
are you talking about? I don't know anyone who speaks Cockney around here.
We don't need to do a clip, do we?
I'll speak to my brother.
My brother.
Or leave it out, sunshine. So there you go. That's an example. Grew up amongst those people. Hopefully I could do that one okay.
I mean, here it says the most famous British accent other than RP is Cockney.
Why do they say that? Why is it the most famous?
Seems bizarre.
What does that mean? Maybe amongst Americans. I think if you write Americans, they just know sort of the posh accent and Cockney. If you say what's the Liverpool accent, and they'll do a Cockney accent. So maybe from that perspective, we're not in Britain now, we're the most famous. Not at all.
Maybe we've discovered what nationality the person was that wrote this article.
Possibly. It's completely wrong. A lot of mistakes in this article.
It says here, Cockney is developed as a dialect of the poorer working classes in the East End of London. That's correct, isn't it? It talks about East London heritage, but I remember you saying that it doesn't mean that you're exactly from East London, right? It covers London in general. Is that correct?
Cockney has two meanings. Sorry, I could go into this later, yet another thing. But Cockney, are we talking about the accent, or am I as doing that extends very far? Or maybe the Essex, you could include that. I'd say people would say, "Oh, it's a different accent." Well, maybe yes, maybe no. But it extends even into Brighton. You'll hear the accent, and Barnet, very strong accent in Barnet. That's very far away. Or you can say that it's a geographical thing. You have to be born within the sound of Bow Bells. Bow Bells in the city of London, by the way. And that's also a bit of nonsense because nobody's born within the sound of Bow Bells now. There are no maternity hospitals anywhere near in the range of Bow Bells. And that quote was done from the 15th century, where you could hear the Bow Bells in Archway, very, very far away, covered most of London. But not anymore. So is it a regional thing? It could be very posh, but you could be within the sound of Bow Bells and you're a Cockney, or you have the accent or you're a Cockney. So what is correct? Watch my video. 35-minute long, that video.
Yeah, you've got a couple of videos on that, haven't you? 25 minutes long. So obviously there's
35.
35. Oh, okay.
Yeah.
There's obviously quite a lot going on with Cockney. If you've created a video that's 35 minutes long, wow, you know a lot of stuff. And, we've only talked about it for 2 or 3 minutes now, haven't we? So definitely watch that one. Here it's got Essex, which we've just spoken about briefly. Why is Essex different?
Not sure, maybe. There might be a few different. But basically, they are Cockneys because, many of them came from the East End of London for two reasons. Because London was bombed. The East End was bombed during the war, and they had to be rehoused after the war. So lots of working class people from the East End moved to Essex. And also, as people got a little bit more affluent, they might have left London, moved to Essex as well. It is really pretty similar.
I think the person here is just trying to be controversial. It says it's an accent that's become much more well-known thanks to reality TV starring people from Essex.
What does that mean?
Exactly.
Much to everyone else's chagrin. What is that? Who wrote this article? Sorry, John.
Oh my God. It's quite controversial.
I'm much to my chagrin. Okay, I'm sorry, Tom F. Currently based in Switzerland.
Really? Is that what it says?
Tom F. Sure, you're a lovely guy. Few errors.
Also, it's within short distance to London, isn't it? If you're in that area, it's probably worth checking out Essex accent. We've covered everything. Is there anything else you wanted to cover?
We haven't covered everything, but that'll do.
Because
there are lots of accents. What about Norfolk?
We could go on all day, though, couldn't we?
Yeah. And so they didn't mention Teesside, or there are a lot more accents.
There are. I mean, I suppose arguably they're kind of the 10. I mean, maybe we've included 11, but yeah, arguably, I'm not sure if I'm going to include Essex in this. So let's put Manchester instead of Essex.
Manchester, definitely, yeah.
That makes it up to 10. Do you want to say something more about your other venture that makes you millions?
Well, I've already flogged it mercilessly already in this podcast, but yes, do check out Let Them Talk TV on YouTube. If you look closely, you'll find quite a number of delightful videos where John is sharing the limelight, including the one we did recently on our classic rock tour of London. You were great in that, John.
Thank you. The best bit was maybe the werewolf.
You, yeah, just for John doing an impression of a werewolf. worth it just for that. You're supposed to be carrying a Chinese menu in your hand, but she's an Indian menu because we couldn't find.
We couldn't, would we?
Some kind of Indian. No one has picked up on that. A menu of an Indian restaurant.
Not so far. I mean, that's for more seasoned watchers, I guess, who are looking for those small clues. We actually did go into a couple of Chinese restaurants and they were like, no, we don't have takeaway menus.
Chinese takeaway that don't have takeaway menus. That's curious, isn't it?
Yeah, it was curious.
No, we don't do that anymore. You can scan your QR code.
That's the reason why, wasn't it? Good job I brought along my local Indian takeaway menu.
Yeah.
Thank you very much for coming on this, Gideon. I
Always
think
pleasure.
Valuable as ever. You've given some very nice insights. Thanks very much, listeners. You've been listening to English with Monty. If you enjoyed this podcast, then please leave me a donation online via our website. Monty is a small independent company and I do all the editing myself. I would suggest £2.50 to buy me a coffee or £5 for a beer. montyenglish.co.uk. Then just click on the podcast button at the top. You can donate here. Thank you. I appreciate it.